Yes, good morning to everybody. Now I introduce this session on Modernization Lab, and I'm very pleased to be here because this is very interesting experience. Thanks to Nadia Mignoli, we already said that this morning and yesterday there was a really interesting session. And we think that it's also interesting to compare the process that is going through your institution, I mean our, like an Italian, to other experience that we can have in Europe, in some other European countries. So today we have some colleagues from other institutes in European Institute. And now I'm professor of demography from the University of Bari, and the discussion and the conclusion will be from Giulio Barcaroli from Istat. We have, as I told you, two experience from Hungarian methodologies from Statistics Hungary, and from Statistics Netherlands, and then we will have also a video conference with Statistics Sweden. So I will give 15 minutes for each presentation, so we can start with you can go. We can start with Csaba Ábry. Which the title of the presentation is Building an Enterprise Architecture and Further Standardizing an Integrated Metadata System. Please, Csaba, we start with you. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Csaba Ábry. I'm working at the Hungarian Central Statistical Office at the Methodology Department, and to be more exact, at the Meta Information section. At our department, we have a modernization cloud, which means that we listed our projects aiming the modernization of our statistical system from the point of view of methodology. And from this cloud, I will show you in my presentation two main activities concerning modernization, which correlates with our section. One is, as you can see it from the title, the enterprise architecture, and of course the further standardization of the integrated metadata system. So, okay. So the outline of my presentation looks like the following. I would like to introduce you how we would like to restructure our enterprise architecture at our office, what standards we would like to use when we elaborate this new structure, and based on that, how we would like to modernize our whole operation and the whole statistical system of not necessarily just our NSI, but also the statistical service in Hungary. And as the enterprise architecture gives the structure of the whole operation of a statistical system of a statistical office, therefore in the framework of this enterprise architecture, I would like to highlight the relevant projects, the relevant improvement actions concerning our meta information system. You will see what I mean by that. What are our strategic goals concerning the enterprise architecture and the integrated meta information system? We would like to revise our business, information, and application architectures. As you will see, we have a long history of these three architectures, as we have an integrated meta information system, which supports not just those architectures, but mainly those ones. So the history of our integrated meta information system goes back to the late 70s. Based on this revision and complement these architectures, we would like to elaborate the new structure of our enterprise architecture by using international standards. As you can see from the driving force part of the slide. We would like to use international standards as we are also a part of an international community. We are not just a standalone National Statistical Institute or whatever. We are part of the European statistical system, and more widely at UNEC level or OECD level or whatever. So a lot of statistical systems. Therefore, we would like to use international standards in order to ensure the better cooperation between different NSIs and other stakeholders of the statistics. So yeah, that's one reason. And not just the cooperation, but if you use international standards, not necessarily just for enterprise architecture, then it's easier to share data between each other, it's data transfer, or IT tools as well, because we are using the same concepts, we are talking about the same. And of course, we would like to further standardize our IMS, so the integrated metadata system. So in the framework of this modernization, we would like to overview our processes at our office, first of all at our office, not necessarily just the statistical business process, but also the supporting activities processes as well, and the objects, the products which we use as inputs or outputs for these processes. And basically, as I'm not just me, but my boss is also from the methodology department, surprisingly, we would like to support more the methodological standardization, both within our NSI and at the national statistical system. You will see how. But what is the current situation at the Hungarian Central Statistical Office? As I mentioned, we have a long history. We have a long tradition concerning business information application architecture due to the integrated meta-information system. As this meta-information system supports not just the statistical business process, but also the supporting activities such as training, perhaps, or resources planning, and so on. Now we launched most of the projects which I'm talking about now in this presentation. One of them is this restructuring, the modernization of the enterprise architecture model. Now we have currently 27 project members, which is a large number. We search for volunteers. So it's a better approach, in our opinion, than if a boss sends his or her employee to participate in a project, because it's a must, no one likes it. So therefore, rather volunteers. So as it is a large number, we divided them into 7 subgroups. As you will see, according to the structure of the enterprise architecture, this is 5 subgroups, and 1 communication and 1 for management. That's how it is organized. Basically, all of the projects, I mean, in this project cloud, this modernization cloud, which I talked about previously, has to end in 2020. I mean, by the end of the year. Hopefully, we plan so that we will manage it. Of course, it will take a lot of resources, but someone has to do it, and sometimes it has to be started. So just to remind you, mostly for those who are familiar with enterprise architecture as an issue in a Statistical Institute, what is the definition of an enterprise architecture? We took the Gartner definition of the enterprise architecture. So it's a discipline, it's a future, state of the art, how we should work, how we should operate. What are the driving forces behind the different processes and products and so on. So it's basically a tool to achieve our target business outcomes, how we plan, how we would like to operate in the future on a longer term. Okay? And as I mentioned, the meta system also correlates with this enterprise architecture, as the meta information system is basically a subsystem of a statistical system. It basically has to support the whole enterprise architecture, how NSI, National Statistical Institute, or any kind of stakeholders in the statistics should work, should operate. And at our office, we always try to establish those metadata which support the whole activity in a standardized way. So, I go further. Okay. So, this is how our new enterprise architecture model looks like. You might be familiar with it if you read the paper, perhaps, on the UNEC website, the CSPA, the Common Statistical Production Architecture. It's similar to this. but we took into consideration other models as well. As we led the standardization ESSnet before, so we would like to standardize, so we would like to gather all of the initiatives concerning this issue. So we took also into consideration the architecture model elaborated by the ESSnet on standardization as well, and the enterprise architecture reference framework for the European statistical system as well. But this is just a structure. That's now where we are. The structure and the concepts, of course, what we mean. Let's go one by one. First of all, the management architecture. We use for this model the GAMSO model. I don't know whether you're familiar with it or not. Basically, it's a generic activity model for statistical organization. It covers activities and processes mainly for management issues, such as how to elaborate a vision for an NSI or a strategy or a project, or how to manage methodological management perhaps, or resources management, information management, data management. Those are which contain this management architecture. So those processes are not necessarily directly linked to the statistical data, but rather to the operation of statistical institutes. Okay. The next architecture is basically the most important one, the business architecture, because it covers the statistical business process, what we are working on. We provide statistical data to our stakeholders. Those processes are covered in the business architecture. And we would like to use the GSBPM, the Generic Statistical Business Process Model, elaborated by the UNEC for this purpose. I mean, as a process model, part of the business architecture. Now we drafted the national version of this GSBPM. That's the Hungarian abbreviation HTFM. This HTFM is based on the GSBPM version 5 now. We had previously another version of this HTFM, but it was based on the GSBPM version 4. So therefore we took into consideration the recent standards which were available. And basically that's how this metadata and the business architecture correlates with each other. This is the previous version of our HTFM, so the process model. And we would like to restructure our metadata according to this process model, especially metadata which are basically more on processes, such as paradata, perhaps. Okay, so those will be the process phases and the overarching processes at our office. The third architectural layer of an enterprise architecture is information architecture, which is basically the objects, which are the products used in the framework of the processes, irrespective of whether we are talking about the management architecture or the business architecture. Both of them. Those classify information objects. And luckily, we have an international standard for this architecture layer, the GSIM, the Generic Statistical Information Model, where you can find all of the inputs and outputs, which, well, most of them, which you can use in your processes. We would like to use it also, this international model, but just for mapping. As you could hear, we have a long history concerning meta information system, which contains these information objects. So therefore, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want to be more harmonized to the international standards, so that we can really better communicate with other NSIs or whomever. Well, concerning this architectural layer, we have several more metadata improvement actions, because those are information objects. These are the modernization of these information objects, such as the statistical domains. We established a list of our statistical domains in 2007, but this is a rather domestic standard. And therefore, we took into consideration to restructure it according to an international standard, which should be the SDMX list of statistical domains, also elaborated by the UNEC, so that we can see that we produce the same statistics surprisingly, so it's not by chance. So it will be restructured according to this, and based on this list of statistical domains, we also modernize the documentation of these products, of these subject matter domains. This structure will be based on the SIMS structure, the Single Integrated Metadata Structure 2.0, which is the current version of SIMS. And it will be introduced at the Eurostat level as well, so we have to send the metadata in this standard form. So therefore, why not introduce it at national level as well? For data sources, we would like to introduce for the documentation the Data Documentation Initiative standard, which was elaborated for microdata. So therefore, we would like to not just for, within the data sources, we mean, of course, the data on any kind of data sources, I mean primary or secondary data sources. We also would like to use this DDI standard for register documentations. We already have a register documentation, but we would like to restructure it according to DDI. And for the research databases. So what can be, how it is called, sorry? It's okay, thank you. Okay. Concerning the legal basis, we would like to expand the subsystem of legal basis because it's not enough what's in this part of the database. We would like to supervise the concepts which are used at our NSIs because now, because of the code of practice and anything like that, we have to harmonize the concepts within our national statistical system as well, not just within our national statistical office. So therefore, we would like to supervise the so far established concepts. And concerning the nomenclatures and classifications, we would like to standardize them because, well, the maintenance of the metadata is rather decentralized. Therefore, there are some duplications and so on, and we would like to kill those duplications. Therefore, we would like to supervise this subsystem as well of the meta information system. We would like to expand the measure subsystem. Well, indicators of variables, because there are several concepts used for the same purpose in international documents. So therefore, put some synonyms on it. So we would like to expand it with the connections between these variables, because they give parameters for our IT applications for the statistical business process. So therefore, we would like to supervise it and expand. 2 minutes, gosh. Okay. Okay. Then the other next application architecture is the next application, architecture layer of the enterprise architecture is application architecture. Well, we would like to also supervise it according to the GSBPM phases, because the functions of the applications are derived from the processes. So therefore, we would like to revise them. But there are no international standards, basically, how an application architecture should look like. So we will make it on our own. Well, those are the main applications used at our office. So it's not a comprehensive list, but you can see it, the applications classified by functions, okay, how we use it now. The blue ones are new IT applications, but basically they are all metadata-driven IT application. And the last layer of our, the enterprise architecture is infrastructure architecture, which means basically the iron behind the other architecture layers. So it's the technology, printers, email, whatever. As there are also no international standards for it, therefore we will revise it according to how we think. Okay. So summarizing what are our aims and what we have to keep in mind at modernization, that we would like to keep our meta information system integrated, such as now it is. We would like to keep everything metadata driven. I mean the IT applications, of course. We would like to standardize processes more than they are now. We would like to standardize the product lists, you know, GSIM, the generic statistical information model, or the generic statistical business process model for processes, and so on. And we are lucky because this process-oriented approach is supported by our top management. I don't know how we managed it, but yes, it is supported. So it's easier to modernize if you have the support of your top management. And luckily, it seems that international standards are adaptable in the environment of our office. So I encourage anybody to do so, to implement international standards. So what are the next steps? Of course, we would like to further implement the international standards. As you could see, we implemented so far the GSBPM. We would like to move on with GAMSO, the generic activity model for statistical organizations, then the generic statistical information model, and so on. We will elaborate and implement the enterprise architecture at our office till the end of 2020, of course. Based on the GSBPM, or the national version of the GSBPM, the HTFM, we would like to review our quality guidelines. And based on this HTFM, we also would like to elaborate a methodological handbook, which is basically a list of methods that can be used for different process phases and sub-processes. And on a longer term, we would like to, we would like to make an analysis, like mapped against the enterprise architecture model, how we operate now, what are the white spots, where are further applications or so, and so on. So we would like to standardize everything. And of course, as I mentioned, we launched some projects concerning the modernization of our integrated meta-information system, but in the future we would like to launch more projects if you finish some of them, because of course they are based on each other. That's all I wanted to say, so thank you for the attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Csaba. I'm very happy to find things that we hear this morning about the business enterprise. And I can give the floor to some questions now for each presentation, if there is any question. No? So I jump to the next presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No questions, it means it was perfect.
We jump to the next presentation. Okay, please, Barteld. Yeah. Yeah. Where is it? Innovation. Right. Here. Okay, so the next presentation is Innovation at Statistics Netherlands from Barteld, Braaksma. Thank you very much, please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Roberta. And sorry for being late. I was a victim of Murphy's Law. Everything that could go wrong actually went wrong. But anyway, I'm here. I'm happy to be here. So I will talk about the innovation at Statistical Netherlands, but for the same, this presentation could also be called Modernization at Statistical Netherlands, because it's modernization and innovation are basically the same. But I'll come back to that later. Okay. 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 Yeah. Okay. So I'll tell you something about the context why we think we should change the CBS strategic agenda that was adopted last year. The core of my presentation will be about some examples, both on the input side of statistics production and on the output side, and then something that we learned. And in between, I'll also say something about the Innovation Lab. But again, because this session is called Modernization Lab, I thought I should include our Innovation Lab in it. And I just skipped the quote by Henry Ford, which you probably have seen. Modernization means not that you have to do the same thing, but a bit quicker, because the same old clocks, Ford says, I don't care about them. They're just the same old clocks, but a bit newer. So we really have to change. And the need for that is based on what's happening in society. There's a lot of things happening there. All kinds of new technologies are emerging, big data and so on, the mobile device that everybody's carrying. It's development, mind you, of the last 5 or 10 years that the smartphones exist. And now nobody goes anywhere without them. So you have all kinds of new user expectations. They expect that we are present on social media. They expect that we are more interactive in dealing with users and also quicker in producing statistics. They expect us to open up our data as far as possible. And you see also all kinds of challenges in society. Globalization issues, migration, refugees problems, particularly an issue in Italy. I think sustainability questions and so on, sustainable development goals have been adopted by United Nations, and developed like smart cities that are certainly also all the rage everywhere. So that means that there's really a lot happening that we have to take into account. And all of this is data-driven. The Economist already said that a couple of years ago. So in the past there was very little data, now there's a lot of data, so we have to make sense of that. Now our response to that was the strategic agenda, which we adopted last year. It consists of 10 points. 5 of them are you can consider more or less outward-oriented in dealing with the outside world. So I come back to those later with examples. Be more innovative. Don't describe just stovepipes of statistics, but integrated phenomena in society. It's move towards a modern news organization and not just put the figures on your website, but be more active in disseminating news and communicating with users. Respond to demand for statistical services, and that can also be paid services in our case. So there's a lot of things that we want to change there. And last but not least, I also give examples of that strength relation with stakeholders. And the second part is more inward oriented. So to modernize this and improve our impact in society, you also have to do a lot of things inside your own organization. Improve your IT, modernize your IT, make sure that the bureaucracy doesn't get in the way of everything, so make the process lean and mean and so on, and also invest in personal management. So these are very important things in our organization. So this is, to some extent, a very broad umbrella, but one that guides our development now. And in examples, I'll show how they connect to the strategic agenda. So there's a couple of examples that I give. Four in the input side and four on the output side of statistics. I can only cover them very quickly, but I hope that this gives an idea of what kind of things we're talking about. One of them relates to the use of big data. And also I saw there's a lot of sessions in this conference that are also related to big data. So one big data source that we use is traffic loops data. Since last year we make regular statistics based on traffic loop data. That the general national traffic intensity indicator based purely on this big data source of all kinds of traffic loops that measure cars passing roads, cameras, and sometimes built into the roads and so on. But one thing that we can also do is respond very good to phenomena in society. And this is an example of that. The first 3 working days of this year in the north of the Netherlands, in 3 provinces, Groningen, Friesland and Drenthe, there was a lot of issue with rain falling down and freezing when it comes on the spot, so that roads become very slippery and icy. So the traffic was almost impossible. The economy came to a standstill. People couldn't get to the work and so on. So it lasted only 3 days, but that had a serious impact. But then we thought, well, we have now access to these traffic loop data who are available very quickly. So can't we make a statistics on that to see what's the effect? And we managed to do that. So this was on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this icy phenomenon. On Friday, we already came with a press release showing what happened there. And what you see is on the right, there's, on the light blue is the average over 3 years, and dark blue is the average, is the situation of this first 3 days of the year. So on big roads it's half of traffic, of normal traffic. On small road, the last one, it's only a quarter of normal traffic. So this very interesting that we could do this based on big data. Now, if you work with big data, you need to get access to all kinds of new technique and expertise. So we say, well, we can't do this alone. So we work together with the university in the Netherlands. We're concluding all kinds of cooperation agreements, and one of them was the University of Twente. And what we did there was also organize with them a data camp. So basically we locked away 10 of our statisticians at the campus of the university, made them work together with 10 PhD students there on big data related problems, presented on the last day to our Director General and the head of Twente University, and they came up with very interesting results. And the goal was mainly to learn about big data, but the results themselves were interesting. So one thing that you see here out of the 8 things that they considered is the arrival of spring in the Netherlands, based on an indicator flower. You can follow what people say about that flower on Twitter and then how it moves in 2 different years. The other one is about relation to GDP and traffic, because if there's more traffic, there's more economic activity, you could say. And people found a very high correlation there. So there's also a very interesting case. Data collection with tablets is a bit older already. So we did it at just before Christmas 2013. We are responsible for statistics in 3 small islands in the Caribbean. And they said, well, we'd like to collect the data with tablets, because everybody speaks 4 languages there. Only 20,000 people, but they speak 4 languages: Dutch, English, Papiamento, local language, and Spanish. So it's always a problem to do the paper forms. Said, why not try it with tablets? Oh, and by the way, in 2 months' time, we need to have that in the field. Everybody said, oh, it's impossible, you're crazy, and by the way, we don't work with Android and so on. Still, we said, yeah, we try it, and we managed to do it with very limited time. And now every questionnaire there's run with tablets. So there's also a form of innovation. You have to be daring sometimes. You take chances. Yeah, Blaze 5 is a new version of Blaze. Maybe you know about that. It's the system that we use. That also here we innovate because Blaze is 30 years old. The survey system. I think apart from big data, also services are still relevant. So we work on upgrading Blaze to support that. Is very important. I think Italy also uses Blaze, and so we support now multiple devices and so on. There's another kind of innovation on the input side. Okay, then now I move on to the output side. One of the things that we did there is that we said, well, we want to be a news organization. It's no use to produce data and information without actually showing to the world what you're doing. So we promoted our news department, our communication and dissemination department to the board of directors level. So we attracted a new director there coming from the journalism world. And we also built a new communication center right at the entrance, very visible with CNN style. We call it CCN in our case. We also changed, for example, the moment that we have press releases, not at 10 o'clock in the morning as we had before. Then everyone's gone to work, but at 7 o'clock in the morning, because then it can go into the morning news. And basically, they work now 24/7. So if there's a call for an interview early in the morning, we just support that. So we work a lot in investing in communications here. We also built new tools. This is kind of what you call in Dutch geluksmeter, which is basically an interactive happiness meter. So a tool which you can use on your smartphone. We built it with an external startup waveform, and they have the technology to do it. So we said, well, we want to do this and this, and say, oh, we can build it. So in a couple of months we had this tool, which also was very well received by national press and so on. So in this you can compare the average score of your province and your age group and your education level to your personal health level, put on Facebook and so on. So it was very well received. If you understand Dutch, you can try it for yourself. Yeah, a bit similar also on the output side. Is, basically we say we have to produce much more pictures. People are too lazy and have too little time to read all the things, all the press releases that we do. So we have to do much more with pictures. And one example is also from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. We make a dashboard about them, about the most important economic sectors. There were some paper publication. Now we say, well, we have to give them some interactive dashboards to work on that. And all this started a couple of years ago when at the entrance of Croatia in the European Union, someone said, well, we should produce infographics. What does European Union mean for us, for export and so on? So we start to create some infographics. Everyone says, no, you can't combine all the information in infographics. There's not enough detail. And by the way, we have a company style which doesn't support this. So, but from the innovation program, we support that, and we mentioned after we had at first the infographic, everyone says, oh, in school we also want one. So that's linked to the innovation program. Part of the things that I showed you before, most of them, have a link with our innovation program, which I'm the head of. So we started in 2012 with creating an innovation lab, a physical space where you can do innovative things. It looks different from our offices. We have different opportunities there, so powerful PCs that are not connected to our internal network, so you can download everything on the internet to try it out and so on. Of course, for when we're dealing with sensitive data, we have to be careful. We also did something for that. But the idea is that you can generate all kinds of innovative things there and try them out with limited resources, limited time, also limited ambition, but just to show if it works. And if it works, then you can expand it further on. So it's used a lot. So we had, in a couple of years, 150 ideas. The half of them, they went on to statistical experiments, proofs of concept, and 20 of them went on to implementation already, and several more in the pipeline. Okay, and this is my last slide. So I hope I didn't go too quickly because it was really a bird's eye view. So everything that we did was really supported by our top management. Also what Csaba said before, if you don't have support from your top management, you get nowhere. So that's a really very important condition. What he also said is we need to connect the business to it, not only for methodology or IT, but we really need to make a connection with people in subject matter areas, because they have to do it if it works. The safe environment, that's the innovation lab basically, and we had some other measures for that. But also important to maintain coherence and focus. From time to time we use that to rethink, is it really the kind of thing that we want to do? Do we want to experiment with the Oculus Rift now, or or with Microsoft Kinect, or is that a bit too far away from our core business? So you have to think about those things. But in the end, it's all about being open and agile, open to new developments and agile. So that if you take a different turn, then don't bother about it. Join forces, first of all, in the statistical community. That's also why I'm glad that I'm here. So we work already a lot together with Istat and KSH in Hungary, for example. I think there's benefit in doing that more. And what Csaba said about architecture, that's the first step to integrating architectures. And it's also important to organize innovation. Not too explicit, because then you kill innovation if you can have too much structure, but you need something. Now, I think that's basically what I wanted to say. So the last thing is, in small print, there, the focus on innovation is essential, or in modernization, even in times of budget cuts, as we all experience, because if not, then you get lost. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Barteld. I find very interesting the communication process that you are going through, because then you bring through the innovation lab and the innovation program, which is very important. There is any question for Barteld?
Just one.
Yes,
Okay.
from the floor. Wait, 1 minute. Silvia Bruzzone.
I am Silvia Bruzzone from Istat, and I work on road accidents statistics. So I was interested in the presentation about this connection on traffic data and GDP or other informations that you can have. My question is, if you use these indicators in the official statistics currently, and you produce these indicators in a systematic way now, and in which way you detect the traffic in your country? If you have some, if I understood well, you have some special sensors in the roads, so you can have a precise data that we don't have in Italy, so precise, but maybe we can try to estimate some flow. We are trying to do this, but it is a big challenge to use big data in this way and to use maybe in the official statistics. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how much time I have for giving an answer, but indeed we use these road sensors now to produce the statistic on traffic intensity. So we started with an annual statistic on the major roads, because these sensors, the disadvantage is that they're only in the main roads. So we start with annual statistics for the main roads. And also one of the experiences was that our people who are used to traditional statistics, they had trouble to adapt to it, because it's so much data. They want to analyze all of it, which is not possible. But then they find striking examples like the one road from Schiphol Airport close to Amsterdam to The Hague. There was no traffic on a single day. That was the day that Obama passed there for a security summit. And then CIA said, shut down all the sensors and so on. But you can really measure them in very much detail. If you don't have them in Italy, there's an alternative also based on big data, which is called floating car data. So you can put sensors inside cars. In all these new self-driving cars, I expect that sensors will be built in. But now you can already use apps and so on to get access to sensor to that kind of data, which comes from the cars themselves. We also experiment with that, and we get similar results. So that could also be the one way for Italy to try that.
Okay, thank you, Giulio.
It was just a joke, just to understand if your position about planning is reported in the strip, because it was a method that we discussed this morning, the relationship between innovation and planning. So it seems that there are some problems in this perspective.
Yeah, that's indeed an important issue, because what I did not touch upon because of the limited time is there's a challenge when going from innovation, very small experiments, to production. And what this question about road sensor data, we managed to do that, to make that step. but it took us a half year longer than we had anticipated, because there's all kinds of issues that the subject matter people came up with, and they were right about this. But so that it's a challenge when you have to move over from a rather free process to a more structured process. And one thing that we do is also to make more structured approaches more structured approach in innovation, and less structured approaches in production. So moving to agile the development process, for example. We can discuss about it more.
Please.
Ciao Piero, and I would like the same question about Giulio. For accessing to the laboratory of innovation, do you need to make some project, some small project that should be approved, or how is regulated the access, the people that can go there, and for how much time, if there is some short procedure or some this?
Yeah, there's indeed a kind of procedure for these innovation tracks. We don't call them projects, but innovation tracks. Tracks, so not tricks, but tracks, to distinguish from formalized projects. And what we try to do is generate as much as possible ideas. So this is very important that everybody comes up with ideas. And then we have a kind of funnel approach. I also showed in the picture that gradually we try to reduce the ideas to those that are most workable. So, and one important step there is that we only go forward if an idea is supported by someone from management, who says, well, I like this idea, I'm going to support it in some way. And also we say that someone who comes up with an idea, they have to be willing to work on their own idea, because otherwise it's easy. If the idea works and they say it's my idea, if the idea fails, then they did it wrong. So people have to be willing to work on their own ideas. And we have a one-page document, just a single page, where we describe the idea, so that everybody's literally on the same page. But that's all the kind of formalities that we have there. So no elaborate project plans. But then these ideas, these proofs of concept, as we call them, they're also very small. So usually take only a couple of months with limited resources, limited budget for that.
Another question: if it is open only to your staff or even to universities, the access to the laboratory?
We are gradually opening it much more. So we're now talking about open innovation and co-creation. So, and we just finished a project with people from our Ministry of Economic Affairs who are involved in subsidies, and they want to know what is the effect of subsidies in agriculture. So they brought their information about agriculture subsidies, who receives subsidies and so on. We brought in our statistical information, combined that in our innovation lab in a safe environment. And that's a project that we just finished. And we're doing several more things like that. So we are trying to involve others as well in this, both other government institutes as commercial partners.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We go back to Hungary, so please come here. So, well, I'm sorry, Zoltán. 1 minute. I think we give the floor first to the video conference, okay, because we had an appointment with at 15:25. So what time is it? Okay. Can you come to No.
Water, Csaba? You want water?
Non so dove è stato. Okay, Klaus, can you hear us? perché prima sentivamo lui, ma lui non ascoltava noi. Ma
È possibile vedere lui? Il quadro che
da qua non so come...
prima l'avevamo fatto, ma sì. No, è un foglino piccolo.
Ok, e come lo facciamo vedere da qui? So we have the next presentation is from Claus-Göran Hjelm from Statistics Sweden, the competencies for a register-based statistical institute. Please, Klaus, the virtual floor is yours.
Can I start?
Yes, you can start, please.
Okay.
We can hear you perfectly.
Some words about how we see a register-based statistical production system. First of all, it's very essential not to have a religious opinion about this, because if you talk to some statisticians, they think that we can solve every problem with registers. I'm not a big fan of that, but I think that we can see register as one source when we build a register-based system for statistical productions. I'm also going to address some things regarding big data and metadata, as we have heard in the previous presentations. You can change to the next slide, please.
Okay. Is it good? Okay, is this the slide?
But I'll continue. Anyway, the sample survey things and techniques around this started in the 1930s, as you're all aware. If you make the similar comparison between administrative data, you can say that it started in the 1970s or 80s. But we also now have these new sources, as we heard in the previous presentation, about what we sometimes call alternative data sources in the 2010, that is big data, but also other type of sources. I'm going to discuss some things about it, because I'm not sure, or we are not sure that we see the potential of the use of all these new data sources. Like Holland, a lot of countries has started with this work register, but if we see it in a more philosophical way, we maybe have to figure out new ways of designing our surveys, and I'm not sure that we are ready for that in this case. Next slide, please. It feels a bit strange to be sitting at home and
but
it's nice, actually.
It comes very good.
If we have a problem, we need to focus on the problem. We're going to make a design of that and eventually make statistics from that. At least in the Nordic countries, we have these base registers from the individual point of view, from a business point of view, and maybe from a house point of view. We call them base registers. We can always discuss what is a base register, but anyway. But we also have these primary integrated statistical registers. They are more or less combined, or the basis is the base register, of course. But we have made statistical registers. But we have the traditional, if you can call it that, surveys, and we have these other data sources. All these combined, and this is very essential. Combination of this is a register-based statistical production system, because at least from a competence perspective, I think that we can talk for Sweden in this case. We lack competencies between these different type of sources. Because you're probably very good in sample surveys, or you're good in registry-based methods. This is actually a problem. As we have heard before, you can change the slide. There are some preconditions for a register-based statistical institute. One thing that we often miss is we don't know what data we are receiving. And the fact that they are originally for another purpose is that we would like to have more metadata-driven transfer or input from the administrative sources. There was actually one very good. It was the first time when I started Statistics Sweden, it was this collegamento project. I think Istat was the lead of that. Finland was involved. We were just briefly involved. We called collegamento, which was very good. It, among other things, handled this problem with metadata-driven transport from administrative sources to the statistical institutes. I can recommend to look up on some of these findings. Another thing that we heard of during this afternoon is metadata. We have to see that we can validate or determine the changes of the data during the process. That is what we in Europe call process data. If you're reading American or English literature, they call it paradata, but this is more or less the same thing. But then there are some other things that we sometimes often forget. That is the legislation and the public acceptance. We can have a legislation that allows the NSI to have access to administrative data. A lot of countries have it. But there must be public trust. That is, that not just allows the NSIs to have the access, but also that we trust the authority that makes the primary collection of the data. Because if you don't trust the tax system, for instance, then you will probably not have correct data there. So we as an NSI don't have any use of it actually. And of course, we need the good relations with the data providers. That is, we know in advance if it's a new rule, there will be new legislation. That is change of the data, so we can prepare for it in good time. Next slide, please. I can't help when I start to think about this. Everyone talks about big data, but if we see big data as a register, can we process the data as registers? We can probably use some of the experiences and the knowledge and techniques and methods that we have learned from register-based data or administrative data on a big data perspective. But I also must insist that we can, from these new techniques or new professions that are dealing with big data, we call it data scientists. But another more philosophical question is, can we as an I in the future produce the statistics as quick as other players that are probably have another background, not the same discussions or focus on quality and things like that? Will this change our credibility as an NSI, because we trust Google more than we trust the local NSI? And also, now I come to the knowledge thing. Do we have the knowledge and competence to evaluate and use this type of big data? First of all, do we know what type of big data that are existing in our local countries? Next, please. It's about these V's. there are originally, I think it was 3 V's. It was volume. Sorry about that. Volume, of course. That's the normal thing to discuss about volume. But volume is normally a problem from an NSI perspective because we're used to handling volumes. We are not that used to use that variety. That is, we are used to handling structured data. And structured data, that is, it could be metadata, it could be power metadata, or it could be traffic data, whatever, but it's structured. But big data is normally not as structured. Velocity, from an MSI perspective, is that data is so rapidly created, the speed is so high. We're not quite used to that. And also, sometimes we discuss, do we need the data or can we just calculate it on the fly? That is, we normally take the data to our MSI and we check the data, we impute it or whatever we do with it. But can we just calculate it on the fly and just present result? Maybe, I don't know. Variability is also an interesting thing. That is, data is changing all the time. Can we reproduce the same thing from one period to another? I'm not sure about that. And is this the way for an NSI to work in the future? Quality, veracity is also, of course, we don't know the origin, we don't know if it's manipulated or whatever it is. There are actually 2 more V's that we sometimes discuss. One is visualization, that is, how do we make it visible for the end users and for the users. And the last one is not so interesting for us, but it's value of the data. In commercial work, this type of data has a value, and there's a lot of V's nowadays from the original 3 V's, actually. Yes. Next slide, please. To summarize this regarding competencies, maybe it's future competencies, because I'm not sure that we have all these competencies today. I think we needed to look at problem formalization in another way. That we have more complex survey design. That is, of course, that we have designs from multiple sources. I think the design phase will be more complex in the future. We must learn how to make estimates during multi-source data. I can speak for Sweden now. We are in a learning process here, actually. But also the managing of large register systems. As I mentioned earlier, we maybe don't have to store the data. We could probably use the cloud to calculate in it. That is, we need more informatics method and we use statistical method. And one of the ways for that data is unstructured. That we need to learn how to format and retrieve non-standard data sources. And I also think that we need to improve our communication to the owners and to the public opinion. That is how and why we do that. Is because the option is that we leave this to other commercial institutes. I'm not sure we want to do that. That was the quick version, actually. So I think I will have problems to ask questions.
Lui non ci può ascoltare? Lui ci ascolta? Ah. Thank you very no. Thank you very much, Klaus. Non ci ascolta? Thank you very much, Klaus. Now, if there is any question from the floor? It's quite difficult to... che faccio? Chiudo? Can you hear us?
I can write a paper regarding this.
Non sento proprio. Scriverò un po'. Thank you very much to being here virtually. We remain connected anyway. Okay, so we go to the next presentation, please. I'm joking. I'm sorry. Okay. It's Zoltán Vereczkei, and he will talk us about the data collection methodologies and better use of administrative data sources for production of official statistics. Okay. Aspetta che non trovo. No, non trovo. Ah, ok. Okay.
Yes, well, thank you. Yeah, first of all, let me say I'm very happy to be here today, and I hope you have a very nice conference. I saw the agenda, so you must have heard already many things about modernization and methodology and quality, and I hope you will be expert on this field, and you will also teach us some things at the end, what you learn these days. So in these 15 minutes, I would like to talk about the, yeah, is it, I think it should be, no? No. Ah, sorry. Okay, it's shown. Thank you. So, yeah, thank you. So, in this 15 minutes, I would like to focus on the data collection related. Yeah, it's on. Yeah, thanks. On the data collection related modernization activities we have at the HCSO. Of course, it's only just a part of the modernization activities, the modernization program we call the Modernization Cloud, as Csaba said. So we have quite, from our perspective, very important improvements reached in a few years past, and still we have many things ongoing that could be also, I think, interested for others. So before going too far, I think three things should be highlighted when we talk about modernization from the methodological point of view, as that follows that the way of thinking should be architecture-based. So you have to think in a system, and the way of thinking should be somehow process-driven. So we also realize that even though we have a system that some people might call stovepipe, we feel that it's a very old structure. So we start to think more about a process-driven approach, and maybe in the near future the organization will also change. We will see that, but it's not a question of methodology, of course. And the third thing, which I think we don't mention many times these days, is quality. So we also think from methodological point of view that the biggest asset of an NSI is not just the data they have, but the data of proven quality they have. So these are the three main, of course, the three main elements of a modernization activity. So about data collection, just briefly, I show you the process model in which we are thinking. This is the same one that Csaba showed you earlier. It's the Hungarian adaptation of the GSBPM. This is the current version we have, and this is currently being revised to the GSBPM 5.0 compatible version. So we are focusing on now on these two process steps or sub-processes. In the Hungarian system, as Csaba introduced, we have the characteristic of having metadata-driven applications. It means that all of the systems we have are metadata-driven and built on in a common database. So what we are talking about is data collection and data preparation. This is the special sub-process we have in Hungary. So I think in a nutshell, this is the basis of all data collection systems in NSIs, I believe. Naturally, we have primary and secondary data sources at our hand. Just to briefly focus on what modernization activities and results we have nowadays, you know, we don't have to forget about the data collections. I think this is very important to say it. And for business and household surveys, there are two very interesting modernization activities ongoing. One of them is a methodological framework that is currently being developed for micro-validation and editing. So we are now currently revising our system that provides the methodologies for this part. And we have a very strong methodological modernization, which is at the implementation stage, is the introduction of controlled of heavy methodology controlled data collection methodologies for household surveys, and we are planning to develop a similar system for business surveys. We don't have it in place at these days. And many people talked about big data. We also have, of course, many pilots, and just as Barteld said, we also have a very matured methodological pilot on a camera road data to estimate flow information on the roads, similar to the Dutch situation. And we have two more pilots on the online cashier information we use to replace retail trade statistics, and the third one is focusing on job vacancies using administrative and big data sources. And these kind of pilots are being planned and designed at this moment with the cooperation of the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. But what I really want to talk about in these 7.5 minutes I think I have is the administrative data sources, because big data is very, very exciting and very new, but still in Hungary at least we are far from being at the position when we reach the full potential of the administrative data sources we have or we might have at our hands. So about administrative data, it's one of the top priorities of the HCSO, and it has been in the last few years. And I will talk about 4 major results that could be maybe interesting or useful to others. One is a brand new integrated system we have for the receive of all secondary data sources in place. Because a few years ago in Hungary we received files from one institution, files from another, and the people in the office didn't really know about each other. The quality was not controlled, the data structures were not defined, concepts were not known, and it was a really big risk for quality and for the data process itself. So it was one of the key modernization lines for us to introduce an integrated system for that, and we succeeded. It's being currently fully implemented. This is called Karat. This is the name of the new system we have in place. And we talk about a few words on the others highlighted on the slide. So a few words on this Karat system. As I described the situation earlier in Hungary, we didn't have a quality-controlled inflow of administrative information to HCSO before. And in 2013, we started to develop a new system, which is in place since 2015, and contains all secondary data sources that are received, that are sent into the HCSO, and it will reach full coverage in the upcoming year in 2017. So with the objectives of this system, we wanted to have a secure channel, a documented documentation on all secondary sources. We wanted to implement formal and quality checks in the inflow of administrative data sets. We want all of them to be loaded into database, to have them all metadata driven and described in the metadata system, and to offer user-friendly services to data providers to do this for us. And so the main characteristics or the main lessons learned with this, I can say it's a generic system. It has standardized processes. It's all metadata driven and integrated into the application architecture we have, which is a huge impact result in my opinion. And it has a process-driven way of thinking and the standardized documentation. And it has a huge impact on the methodological pilots we have now, including administrative data sets. So just in a nutshell, this system has 3 layers. One is an external one where data providers can send the data into the HCSO. It's all IT secured solutions. They have multiple options to do it using web-based solutions and government gateways, direct file upload, and so on. And the statisticians themselves manages all these problems themselves, so they can check the content of the data, the structure of the data, and the quality information sent. So it's a huge milestone. So what quality controls I'm talking about? We use extensive paradata we have with the inflow of administrative data sets, and we developed quality indicators based on these. So we can every day check the current state and the content of the administrative data sets received by the HCSO. And I assume everybody is familiar with the Code of Practice, the European Statistics Code of Practice, and the 9th principle is about respondent burden. So we also have a huge focus on what burden it has on the owners of the administrative data. So in the last 2 years we had extensive teaching and mentoring activities involving all partners. So we taught them how to use the system and why quality was important for us. And we think we see the results already, but we still have a long way ahead of us with this. And this slide might be familiar to you, as Csaba showed you about an hour ago. With the ones highlighted with blue is the new ones I'm talking about, this new system of Karat, and the other one called Adamesh. This system means that if administrative data is received by the HCSO, there is an internal subsystem to do micro-validation and to do checks. And as I said, we now have a methodological framework developed nowadays to have an integral micro-validation and editing methodology framework. And this Adamesh is one of the systems that will be integrated into this. The other one is called Adel. It's also an integrated system, but that we use for data collections. Some light on the methodology. I'm a methodologist, so I have an affection for the methodology. Please forgive me. In line with the development of these new systems, we now have a new common methodology on how to assess the potential of the administrative data sources, not just potential ones, but the ones we already use. And we are now building a database that will contain information on this, and this will be made integral part of the business process, also the build and design phases when we design statistical surveys. And if you are interested, we will have an extensive report available by the 2nd quarter of next year, which is also peer review recommendations for Hungary. So if you're interested, you will find many information on this. And the uniqueness in this, that the methodology is based on a previous Hungarian experience. So we had a methodology before, but we fine-tuned it, and hand by hand with other countries who are involved in Division 2020 project ESS VIP admin. There is an ESSnet project called ESSnet on quality of multi-source statistics. So we try to implement the European experiences as well. Another important part is in line with the system and methodology development, we also renew the cooperation with the data owners. We have a total new way of how to approach the issue, and we have a standard solution that contains legal text, of course, and a yearly work program that contains all information that is needed for the Karat system to plan the upcoming data transmissions for the next year. And we have metadata descriptions, of course, planned for each takeover with data structure definitions and quality information, for which we are now finalizing a new quality report, especially for administrative data sets we receive, which will be integral part of this new approach, which will be put into operation in the 3rd quarter this year. And it's just some numbers on it. We are not like the Nordic countries, so we don't have an extensive use of administrative data sets, but I think we are on the right track. In Hungary, the HCSO, about 40% of our data collections or data sources are based on secondary data sources now. And if you think about the whole national statistical system of Hungary, it's about quarter of all the sources. So the other partners of the statistical system are a bit behind us, but we are trying to make them a bit, to speed up, and we make changes every once in a while. So the statistics you see here is the plan for the upcoming year of 2017. And so what lessons we learned from this is, well, I need to highlight that we invested really a lot of resources, not just financial, of course, but manpower, and we extended the methodological background as well into how to integrate the administrative data sources. The results are satisfying because the system is integrated into the HCSO architecture, and many methodological issues are now on the table, which I think is very good, because at the past it was really a problem if we didn't see all the quality and the methodological problems all together in an integrated way. So the use of administrative data sets has significantly increased in HCSO in the last 3 years, and we expect it to be on the right track. And in the upcoming years it will increase as well. We have, as I said, a fully compatible and integrated metadata-driven solution, which is a huge value added from quality perspective as well. And as I said, it opened up other areas where further methodological standardization is required. And we have now, I think, 3, maybe 4 exact methodological pilots using real multi-source statistics to how to use them, how to combine the data sets, and how to control the quality, which I think is one of the biggest challenges of using multi-source statistics. But we are optimistic about the outcomes. And another good result, of course, is the awareness and satisfaction, let's say, of the owners of administrative data sources have increased also in the last few years. They are now much more aware of why the national statistical systems need their data. And I think we are far from an optimal position, but we will keep pushing the issue. So basically that's all I just wanted to highlight with this modernization line. And also what Barteld said before, I think it's very important to come up with new ideas every day, let's say. So I'm a person like I'm never satisfied. So when we reach something, I always think about how to be in a better position. So I think you should never be satisfied with the solution you have at your hand, but also keep thinking about the next step and involve the others, because we couldn't have done this without the national statistical system and not without the data owners. It could have been impossible for us to reach this kind of good result. So thanks.
Thank you, Zoltán, and congratulations for what you have done in your institute also, and even if you are not satisfied. There is any question from the floor? Yes, please.
Hello, Massimo Casa from the Central Bank of Italy. So I have 2 questions for the Hungarian colleagues. Even if the content of the statistics we take care of is slightly different, I see many similarities in the configuration of your statistical process, from data design to data dissemination to ours. And I would like to know if, as it is an integrated one, if you have a business unit specialized in managing the metadata for all other business units, and if it's so, as it is for us, if it is resource consuming, because when you have systems which are completely metadata driven, the metadata are really the engine of the whole process, and in our case we have a lot of resources dedicated to this task, from for the data collection, designing, data cleansing, data storing, data dissemination. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I try to answer it, and Csaba, maybe you can say a few words if I'm wrong. First of all, yes, there is a unit dedicated to the coordination of all this, and this is at the methodology department at this moment. And of course, we are not satisfied with this solution, so we try to further extend the way we coordinate the meta information. And from our experience, it's the initial investment you make is huge. But once you have it in place and you have control mechanism in place, then it's less and less resource consuming. But with the coordination and from methodological point of view, the content of meta information, it's very, very important that every statistician know what they are doing and why this meta information is used, even if it's descriptive or even if it's some structural or another meta information that designs or that manages the flow throughout the metadata-driven systems. But I won't lie to you, it's a challenge. So sometimes people say why they don't want to do it. So there are many problems with this. But if you put resources into this, you can do it. So I think for Hungary, it's a great value added. We have these kind of integrated systems in the 1970s, late 1970s. So when we design a new system, we never give up this idea. So once we open up fully to new solutions which are not in line with the integrated model, we lose the opportunity to have the control of this. But you must have, at least from our experience, you must have some dedicated unit who are in charge of coordinating all this. But according to the principles we have, it's also important that people who are involved are also involved. So they must do it, but someone needs to coordinate and develop and check, and go there and make a change if something is going wrong. We still have a lot to do in this way, but yes, there is a unit for it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a few minutes for the
Okay, thank you. I would like also to congratulate the Hungarian presenters for their very interesting presentations. And you mentioned about CARAT, the system, that you document the administrative data sources that you are uploading in your system. So I would like to know, just in a nutshell, what type of documentation do you achieve? And the second question that I have, you mentioned paradata and quality indicators. And I understand that these are referred to the input data. But I would like to know if you also developed a framework for assessing the quality of the throughput and the output of statistical information based on administrative data sources. Thank you.